This is today's project. I got my new pressure pot a little while ago, and this is the first thing that I put in there. I used Black Forest resin, which is the brand of the resin that's carried by Black Forest Wood Company in Calgary. It's called a deep resin, and it's recommended to pour it up to 2 inches deep. Well, I don't like taking instructions very well, so I made it 5 inches deep just to see what would happen. I'm very pleased with how this turned out, and I hope you'll stick around. It's going to be a little longer video than usual because I was doing a little experimenting, and it's my habit to explain everything I'm doing because someone out there might be watching this who's just starting to get into resin, and they can come along with me on the journey because that's where I'm at. I hope you'll stick around. Sorry if this is a little long for you. You can skip through the video as you like, and I'll see you at the end. Let's go do some resin work. I'm using Black Forest deep resin. You have to mix it 2 to 1, so I'll be pouring 16 ounces of the resin and 8 ounces of the hardener. It says to mix this for 3 to 4 minutes, so I will mix it for 4 minutes just to make sure. This being my first time using this, I know I'm taking a bit of a risk. It's supposed to be good for a pour 2 inches deep, and I'm going to be pouring about 5 inches deep. All right, that's 4 minutes of mixing. So now I want to try to get close to half of that in each of these other tubs. All right, now for some color. I've chosen for one of them the Black Diamond Pigment Powder Luxe Deep Sea Blue. And I'm not sure how much of this I need to use. After all, this is all experimenting. Let's see. Well, I sure didn't put much in there, but it seems to be giving it a lot of color. Yeah, I like the looks of that. This other one, again, is a Black Diamond Pigment Powder, Emerald Green. Let's see what this one does. All right, I'll set some of this out of the way. Now I'm going to bring in another one of these containers. I'm going to put a small block of wood in the bottom of it, hopefully to use as a glue block. And then I'm going to use some of these pine cones from my wife's Mugo Pines. Keep them from floating up right out of this thing, I'm just going to put a strip of strapping tape across the top. I'm also wondering what it would be like to put some of this diamond silver pearl in one of these. See if that'll give it a little highlight. Put it in the green. Now, to see what this is going to look like, try pouring a little on each side. All right, just use some acetone to clean this up, these little spills. I have a very small and very loud compressor, so I had to mute the sound for that. But now I've got it up at 50 pounds. I can't hear any air escaping anywhere. So I'm going to leave it sit now. That's supposed to sit for 4 days, so I'll come back in 4 days and see just how badly I messed up by pouring it 5 inches deep. Oh, that's not what I wanted to happen. But that's why I put this plastic pot in there. All right, I guess I'll be making up some more resin to pour in there. Try this again. Next time I'll put a corral around this thing to keep it in place. All right. Since everything seems to be green that's tilted to that side, I've decided to go with just blue. So I'm going to refill. I think I probably got too much here, but that's all right. I'll be able to use it somewhere. All right, I'm going to put that back in the pressure pot, but this time I'll put it in the pressure pot down on the floor in a spot that's not going to be moved. See if that helps. Obviously, I don't need to put tape across that again. So I'll be back with this after it's in the pressure pot again for a couple of days. Okay, let's see what happens this time. Well, it didn't fall over. Put some tape along the side and down into this pot that I've got in here. All right, it's looking good. Now it's been sitting there for 3 days, and this is supposed to cure completely in 21 days. It's a very slow cure, so I'm going to leave it and I'll be back for it. I hope you'll stick around, but maybe you won't have to watch the whole 21 days. I did not have any mold release spray to put inside this container, so it's pretty much adhered right to it, I believe. So I guess I'll have to try cutting this container away from the resin. See how this goes. Well, it's certainly not as difficult as I thought it might be. And I kind of like those colors in there. Well, that piece of wood I put on the bottom certainly did not keep the resin from running underneath it. And I'm not sure if it's going to show up there. It should, but it's at definitely an angle rather than being flat. So I'm going to put another piece of wood under here as a glue block, put it on there with some epoxy. All right, I think that's fairly well centered. I will let that set up and I'll be back. I have a dowel being pressed in here with my tailstock for a little support. Not sure how well this is going to hold, to be honest. I had to put a second piece on there so I could create the tenon. Now I'm going to just try flattening this out first, see how this works. 750 RPM with my 3/8 inch bowl gouge. Well, this is a little bit like learning to turn all over again. I expected it to be different from wood, and it certainly is. See, I've got a little gap in there. I don't know if that's something that chipped out while I was turning, or if it's just a void because of the pine cone, perhaps. Anyway, just going to try to get this whole thing straightened out here. Trying a 1/2 inch bowl gouge now to see if that makes any difference. 1000 RPM. Well, I have a couple of big gaps in here now. Another one in here right within a pine cone. This one I believe was the original. I'm going to try filling these with some thin CA glue. See if that'll work. Give it a shot of accelerator here. Fill the other one and I'll be back. Now I wonder if it's a coincidence that these two spots line right up. Probably something I did with the gouge. I'm going to carry on here. 1000 RPM, 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Do a little shear scraping, see what that will do in there. Well, I can certainly detect that they were repaired. Just go on turning this. Still some experimentation to do. Start to see the wood through here on the green. My wife was walking through the shop as I was cleaning up all of those resin strings. And I said, boy, I'm lucky I got a woman who likes to help clean up my shop. And she just laughed at me and said, well, I guess you better call her then, because I don't see her around here anywhere. Is that rude or what? So I can see that filling this hole was a waste of time and glue. I guess maybe I have to learn to wait until I have finished the turning and then fill them just before shear scraping. So I'll carry on from here. This is turning out a lot nicer than what it had been. See if I can make that continue. All right, I have refilled these two divots, if you want to call them that, with CA glue. And I'm going to try, without any sanding, just to see what Axe abrasive paste will do on here. I won't be at all surprised if I have to come back and sand the whole thing, but I want to see what this will do. All right, right where those spots are filled, I am definitely going to have to do some sanding. But I'll continue with this just to see what it does. This is an experiment, as most of the things I do are. Well, without any sanding, that's looking pretty good. As I said, I need to do some sanding because of the places where I filled with CA glue. I'll be back. I'm going to sand this now. And then he decided to try some polishing paste first. 1500 RPM. I'm quite pleased with that. That's with just Axe abrasive paste and Axe polish restoring paste. No sanding. So I'm going to go back now and I'm going to sand all of this, because there are little spots I can see, and of course the two that I filled with CA glue. But that's exciting just how good that came out without doing any sanding. Wow. All right, I'm going to start sanding with 120 grit. I'm doing a wet sanding. I've got this in reverse at 500 RPM. Let's see what happens. Just building up a nice slurry. I think the area with those two holes filled is feeling much smoother now. I'm going to take a look here. Much better. All right, I'll continue and I'll sand up to 320 grit and then take a look and see what Axe paste does from there. Okay, I sanded it to 400. Now I'm going to use Axe abrasive paste and the polishing paste and see if it looks much better than it did before. Also, these spots that I filled, they're not perfect. There are little white dots in both of them. You can just make out that white dot, so I'd appreciate it if you know what's causing that. I haven't picked up on any of the videos I've watched as to what causes that. So I'm going to use this paste and the other paste, and let's see what this does. I think that's an improvement. Now I'll try the polishing paste. That's looking pretty fine to me. I think I'm going to sand this back, starting with 320, go up to 1000, and then do the same thing again with Axe pastes. See if I can see any difference. I actually took this up to 2000 grit, and now I'm going to use Axe sanding paste and his polishing paste again, and see if we can see any difference this time. I'll just come back after this is finished. I'm sure you don't want to sit through watching this over and over again. Before I even put the polish restoring paste on here, I was blown away just by Axe sanding paste. I'm really happy with this. I really like the colors, the sparkles in there. All right, so that's it for today. I'm getting tired. It's been a long day and I'm getting hungry. So I'll be back tomorrow to finish off the top of this, straighten it out, and work on the inside. Now I just want to even out the edge here. It's quite a change right there. Even that out, then I'm going to use a Forstner bit to start the hollowing of this. All right, that's looking good. You have a little hole here. I think I'm going to sacrifice that height just to get rid of that instead of trying to fill it again. I'm still not particularly happy with the two that I filled before. Now the wall thickness at the bottom is 3/16 of an inch. And I want the top to be very close to the same at least. So let's see. I'm going to mark it at 1/4 of an inch and then try to take it down from there. All right, so I'll be turning to that thickness and trying to maintain it all the way down. Everyone that I watch turning resin seems to be doing most of it with scrapers, and I'm sure I will have to do the same thing. But I want to start with my bowl gouge and just see if I can do any turning at all on this. Turning at 1000 RPM using my 3/8 inch bowl gouge. I want to see just what will happen if I try using Cindy Drozd's square recess tool to just slowly peel this away using it as a scraper. Well, that doesn't do a bad job at all. Of course, I'm limited to how far in there I can go with this. It's an awful long way down to the bottom, and it'll start to vibrate. So I'm going to get my 1-inch scraper out and see what that'll do. The thickness feels very even in this part. Maybe the best way to tell is to put a light inside there and see how even the light comes through. As you can see, it's quite a bit different down where it's thicker. Oh, that's much better. All right, I think that's going to work very well. I'll just go through the grits with that down there. Well, I learned something about 5-minute epoxy that I used to put this blank of resin onto the wood glue block. It doesn't seem to have any shear strength. I leaned on this end, actually very gently I thought, and it came right off. I've glued it back on, but it is not perfect. It's not running real true, although I do not want to do the outside again. It's not off that much, so I'm going to just see what happens if I take my scraper and just gently try to go in here to true this up. See if this will hold. And then when I have that done, I'm going to sand. But let's see what happens here with the scraper. 1000 RPM. Because there is so much shavings gathering on here, I can't see what's happening on that side. So I've been watching the other side to see just how wide that turning is. All right, I've sanded the bottom with 80 grit with a 2-inch sanding disc. I'm going to sand the sides inside here. Well, it's a good thing I've got real long fingers. I can just get it to the bottom there. It's 4 inches in there. Just barely make it. All right, that's 80 grit. I'll wash this out, then continue with the finer grits, and I'll be back when this is all finished. I think I'm going to take that off with a saw. Now, what are the odds that this would just break off there easily again? All right, let's see how this is going to hold in the cold jaws. It might have been better if I had just snapped this off instead of starting to cut it off with a saw, but that's what I've got. Maximum speed for these cold jaws is 600 RPM, and that's what I've got it set at. Well, I'll be able to sand that at this speed, but I'm not sure if it's going to be fast enough for the axe pastes. Guess we'll find out. Well, I think that looks pretty darn good. Axe abrasives do nice work on wood or on resin. Now I want to drill a recess for my logo coin. 250 RPM, 7/8 inch Forstner bit. See how this works on here. All right, just get the logo coin, see how it fits in there. All right, let's see how this fits in here. Well, it's tight. I'm not even sure I'll be able to get it out of there. Well, I am pleased with the results, and I'm really pleased if you stuck with me through this whole video. I know it was a much longer one than I usually do, and I appreciate your support just in being here. Well, I hope you got something out of this. Thank you for stopping in today. I hope you'll come back next time. Between now and then, be safe and have a great day in your shop. Click the like button if you like this. I expect to get a lot of thumbs down on this one because it's so long and I got a lot to learn here, so share it with your friends if you like. If you haven't subscribed before, I hope you'll consider doing that. So till next time, take care. Bye-bye now.